Chosen one, the warfare you've been fighting wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to forge you. Stop right here and listen closely. You didn't stumble into this message by chance. Heaven positioned you here because what's about to be revealed will change how you see everything that's been breaking you. But here's what most people don't understand. The very battles that feel like they're tearing you apart are actually building something unshakable inside you. What happens when you finally realize that your greatest pain has been your greatest preparation? If you walk away from this word right now, you'll miss the divine strategy behind every wound you've carried and every door that's been slammed in your face. This isn't just another message about overcoming. This is a prophetic interruption designed to show you why everything had to happen exactly as it did. You are not here by accident. What's ahead in this message will expose the real reason you've been through the fire. But first, here's what you need to understand. God doesn't waste pain. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you thought you couldn't take another step, it was all building toward this moment when you'd finally see the masterpiece He's been creating through the mess. Your breakthrough isn't coming. It's already here, hidden in the strength you didn't know you had. This word was meant for right now, for this exact moment in your journey. Hit the like button if you're ready to receive what heaven is speaking. Your action amplifies this word and helps it reach more of God's chosen across the world. By the end of this video, you'll understand why every closed door was actually protection, every delay was divine timing, and every battle was building supernatural resilience inside you. The shift isn't coming, it's here. This moment is charged with divine purpose, and your spirit knows it. Share one thing you need prayer for today in the comments. Then, be a blessing to someone else by responding to their request with faith and love. The power of prayer is multiplied in unity. Drop your request, pray for someone else, and let the blessings flow back into your life. And to all our channel members, thank you for your continued support and faith. May God return it to you in peace, provision, and divine favor. Type 727 below if you're stepping into the overflow of divine grace, supernatural favor, and God's perfect timing. You know, there's just something incredibly profound, almost sacred, about those times in life when you feel utterly pressed, when you're broken into pieces, and especially when you're completely misunderstood. It's like in those very moments when the weight of the world seems to settle on your shoulders and your heart feels like shattered glass, fragmented and vulnerable, you're standing on the most fertile ground imaginable. This isn't barren earth, parched and empty, crumbling beneath your feet. No, this is the exact soil, believe it or not, where God chooses to plant His rarest, most impactful seeds within us. These are seeds of resilience, of compassion, of unwavering faith, seeds that once nurtured through the often painful process of growth will bear fruit beyond anything we could ever ask or imagine, fruit that feeds not only our own souls, but touches the lives of countless others. It's in these moments of profound vulnerability that the divine gardener truly goes to work, tending to the deepest, often hidden parts of our being. Think about it. Remember Joseph? His story is such a powerful example, a testament to God's meticulous and often mysterious ways, His incredible ability to weave purpose from pain. He was just a young man, full of vibrant dreams, carrying the innocent, untainted hope of a favored son, cherished and perhaps a little naive. And then bam, life turned upside down in the blink of an eye, a sudden, brutal shattering of everything he knew. Thrown into a deep, dark pit by his own brothers, the very ones who should have protected him, whose kinship should have been his shield, his comfort, his safe harbor. Instead, they became his tormentors, their betrayal a wound that surely pierced his soul more deeply than any physical hardship. He was sold off like property, an object stripped of his dignity and identity, forced into a life of servitude in a foreign land. Then utterly forgotten, left to languish in a cold, lonely prison cell, a place of isolation and despair. And to add insult to injury, he was falsely accused of something he didn't do, his character maligned, his reputation shattered, his name dragged through the mud. Can you imagine the whispers of despair in that lonely cell? The crushing weight of betrayal, the agonizing questions of why me and where is God in all of this? The nights must have stretched endlessly, filled with the echoes of injustice and the silent cries of a heart yearning for freedom and vindication. Yet, even in that seemingly abandoned place, the divine plan was meticulously unfolding, like a hidden tapestry woven in the dark. Every single one of those painful setbacks, every single disappointment that would have crushed most people, that would have driven them to bitterness and retreat, it wasn't just random suffering. It wasn't a series of unfortunate coincidences that God simply salvaged, patching up a broken plan. No, friend, it was like an essential ingredient in a divine recipe, a crucial step in a master craftsman's design. A recipe for not just his own incredible deliverance, a personal rescue from the depths of despair, but for the salvation of his entire family, his whole nation even. God allowed him to taste the bitter cup of rejection, to truly know what it felt like to be abandoned, to feel the sharp sting of injustice, the ache of being forgotten, so that one day he could stand in a position of unimaginable authority, wielding profound power, yet operating with a heart full of deep compassion and understanding. He endured the pain of scarcity and hunger, emotional, relational, spiritual hunger, the gnawing emptiness of loss, so he could later be the one distributing acceptance, providing life-saving provision, offering a gentle, understanding heart and a compassionate hand during a time of devastating famine that swept across the land, a famine so profound it threatened to wipe out entire peoples. His suffering wasn't a wrong turn in his life. It was the very path designed to cultivate the specific qualities required for his unique calling. It was a meticulous, intricate design from the very beginning, woven into the fabric of his destiny even before he was born, before he breathed his first breath. And I wonder, as you're listening to this, if maybe you're sitting right at the edge of your own kind of famine right now. Perhaps your soul feels parched, your spirit weary, your emotional and spiritual resources depleted, a deep sense of emptiness echoing in the quiet chambers of your heart. Maybe you're wrestling with the lingering questions, the echoes of pain that still resonate, wondering if any good could possibly come out of that deep betrayal you experienced, those crushing disappointments that still ache with a raw, undeniable throb, or those long, silent rooms where you poured out your heart, begging for answers that never seemed to arrive. It feels heavy, doesn't it? Like you're stuck, caught in a swirling eddy of unanswered prayers and unresolved pain, longing for a way out, desperate for clarity and a glimpse of hope. But here's the thing, and it's so important to remember this, to let it sink deep into the weary places of your soul, to allow it to be a balm to your hurting spirit. Joseph's story, as bleak and desolate as it got, didn't end in that dark, lonely pit, covered in shame and forgotten. His narrative didn't conclude with the clanging of prison doors, signaling an inescapable fate, a life of endless despair. And yours, my dear friend, absolutely doesn't either. Your story is still being written every single day, every single breath, by the loving, sovereign, all-powerful hand of a God who specializes in redemption, who is the master of turning ashes into beauty, mourning into joy, and despair into dancing. He's the author of your future, and he is faithful to complete what he has begun in you. Sometimes, and I've seen this time and time again in my own life, and in the lives of so many others, some of the most profound, life-altering breakthroughs we experience don't happen when we frantically search for all the answers, desperately grasping at every solution, trying to intellectualize our way out of pain. They happen when we finally quiet ourselves enough, when we still the frantic seeking, the ceaseless striving, to just sit with a powerful revelation, allowing it to permeate our very being, to soak into the deepest fibers of our spirit. It's a beautiful internal shift from seeking knowledge, which can often feel like chasing the wind, a never-ending pursuit of facts and figures, to embracing truth, allowing it to ground us, to anchor us firmly in the reality of God's unchanging nature. If that deep resonance is hitting you right now, if you're nodding your head in recognition, if your spirit is stirring with a quiet knowing, a sense of divine appointment, then I really believe the 10 hidden truths of Jesus' parables is truly your next step. It's not just another book you'll read and forget. It's a short, incredibly powerful ebook packed with practical, spirit-led truths that can unlock understanding about everything from your finances, bringing clarity and freedom, to profound healing within your heart, mending the broken pieces, to finding real emotional clarity in the midst of life's complexities and confusion. I'm telling you, it's been a game changer for so many who have felt stuck and longed for a way forward. You can find the link right there in the very first comment below this video. Just a heads up though, it's only going to be available for a limited time, a brief window of opportunity, a divine invitation, so grab it while you can. Don't let this moment, this whisper from heaven pass you by. Your breakthrough could be just a click away. Now let's dive into what I really feel the Spirit is whispering to us right now. Some fundamental shifts we need to make in our perspective, radical new ways of seeing our circumstances through heaven's eyes, through the lens of divine truth, rather than through the distorted lens of human logic or earthly disappointment. First off, let's talk about this deep-seated idea that suffering somehow equals abandonment. This is a narrative we've been fed, often unconsciously, through cultural messages, through painful experiences, a silent lie that whispers in our ears when things get hard, when pain enters our lives, when the shadows lengthen. God has somehow stepped away, or worse, has forgotten us entirely, leaving us to fend for ourselves. We feel his absence as a crushing void, a deafening silence. But in heaven's logic, in God's beautiful and often surprising economy, suffering isn't a sign of his absence. Far from it. It's actually often a signal, a divine indicator, a profound sign that something incredibly important within you is being refined, being strengthened, being prepared for a weight, a calling, a level of impact that your unbroken, unrefined self could simply never carry, could never sustain. Think of gold being purified in a scorching fire. The intense heat isn't meant to destroy it, to reduce it to ashes, but to burn away the impurities, the dross, the elements that diminish its value, so that what remains is pure, precious, radiant, and incredibly strong, able to withstand immense pressure. Or like a diamond, which is just a humble piece of coal that handled immense, relentless pressure exceptionally well over a vast expanse of time, transforming into something of breathtaking brilliance and unyielding strength, something truly priceless. That uncomfortable silence you might be feeling, that quiet, almost suffocating stillness where you're waiting and nothing seems to be happening, where the answers you crave are nowhere to be found, where God feels distant. It's not emptiness. It's often the very sound of God doing delicate, profound surgery on your soul, a work so intricate and precise it requires utter stillness, a quiet, surrendered heart. He's meticulously working, exposing those subtle lies you might have believed about your worth, about your identity, about what you're truly capable of, about your potential, so that his truth and his truth alone can finally take root and flourish, growing into an unshakable foundation within you. It's painful, yes, the cutting away of what no longer serves you, the pruning that feels severe, but it's a necessary work of love, a divine artistry shaping you for greatness, preparing you to carry his glory in ways you can't yet fathom. Second, let's confront another pervasive narrative, the one that tells us every single closed door is some form of punishment, a sign of our failure, a definitive barrier, or God saying no to us forever, a permanent rejection. We tend to see closed doors as impenetrable walls, as dead ends that block our path, as divine judgment for something we've done or haven't done, or even for simply not being enough. But what if we shifted our perspective just a little, allowing God's higher wisdom, his limitless perspective, to illuminate our understanding? What if we started seeing those closed doors not as sentences, not as condemnation, but as shields? Imagine a shield that God Himself has lovingly placed there, not to keep you out of something good, but to protect you from something that isn't quite right for you, or isn't right for you yet, in His perfect unfolding timing. Think about the man born blind in John chapter 9. He was overlooked, dismissed, a silent figure on the fringes of society, an outcast, and carried the heavy burden of shame and judgment for years, simply because of his condition. People believed his blindness was a result of sin, either his own or his parents', a visible mark of divine displeasure, a curse. But Jesus showed up, the very light of the world, and revealed something completely different, something profoundly redemptive and utterly liberating. This man's condition wasn't a punishment. It was a canvas upon which God intended to reveal His glory, to display His power in a spectacular, undeniable way. His delay, his years of being overlooked, of sitting in darkness, weren't wasted. They were coverings, disguises, if you will, that protected the next glorious part of His story from premature exposure, safeguarding it until the perfect divine moment for its unveiling. He wasn't just healed, He became a living testimony, a powerful declaration of God's redemptive power, an undeniable witness to truth, someone who could never deny the radical transformation God had worked in his life. So those delays you're experiencing, they aren't denials of your deepest desires, the yearnings of your heart. They might just be disguises, strategically placed by God to safeguard the truly magnificent chapters of your life until the perfect moment for their unveiling, until you are fully ready, internally prepared, and the environment is perfectly aligned for you to step into them. It's a protection, a profound act of love, not a penalty or a rejection. Third, it's absolutely vital to silence that relentless nagging echo of comparison. Oh, this one is tough, isn't it? It creeps into our hearts so subtly, a quiet thief of joy and contentment. In our world today, we are constantly bombarded with highlight reels. Every social media feed, every magazine cover, every success story plastered everywhere. It's always the best, the brightest, the most polished, most seemingly perfect version of someone's life. It's the carefully curated image of achievement and ease, the effortless ascent to the mountain peak. And it's so incredibly easy to look at that and feel like you're falling behind, that your own journey is somehow less significant, less successful, less impressive, less valuable. We look at their mountain peaks and forget our own valleys have their own sacred beauty, their own profound lessons, their own unique harvest. But here's the truth. The liberating truth that will set your spirit free. While the world is busy showcasing highlight reels, obsessed with the superficial and the momentary, with fleeting applause and external validation, heaven, the very hand of God, is actively writing a profound, eternal legacy in your hidden work, in the quiet, unseen acts of faithfulness that no one applauds, in the battles you're fighting when no one else is watching, when the world is asleep and you're wrestling in prayer, in the character being formed in the crucible of adversity when no one is applauding. That's where the real story is being written, not in the public eye, but in the depths of your soul, in the quiet corners of your heart, a story of genuine transformation and enduring purpose. It's not about how many likes you get, or how many accolades you accumulate, or how many followers you have, but about the depth of your devotion, the tenacity of your resilience, and the integrity of your heart before God. As we move forward, you're going to discover a step that most people, if we're being honest, actively try to avoid because it feels profoundly uncomfortable. It's counterintuitive to our natural instincts, to our desire for control and recognition, but I promise you, it's the one single step that truly changes everything. It's the key to unlocking true freedom from that comparison trap that binds so many souls, suffocating their unique gifts and callings. Fourth, this one ties directly into freedom, particularly freedom from stagnation and the paralysis of inaction. Align your actions with your revelation. It's not enough to just hear a powerful truth, is it? We can listen to 1,000 sermons, each one a profound masterpiece, filled with divine insight, read 100 books filled with divine wisdom, and nod our heads in enthusiastic agreement, feeling a surge of inspiration, a rush of understanding. But if we don't actually do something with what we've learned, if we don't take a tangible step of obedience, no matter how small or how terrifying, it just stays as information, as abstract knowledge, never transforming into lived reality, never truly changing us. So don't just hear, respond. Take Peter, for instance. When Jesus called him out of the boat in the middle of a raging storm, a tempestuous sea with waves crashing and wind howling, the storm didn't magically stop. The waves were still crashing, the wind was still howling, everything was still chaotic, terrifying, and illogical. But for the very first time in his life, Peter truly realized that faith doesn't actually need still waters to operate. It doesn't require a calm, predictable, comfortable environment. All it needs is a sure word from God, a divine invitation, a simple instruction. He stepped out onto the unstable waves, into the very heart of the chaos, because Jesus simply said, "Come." And for a glorious faith-filled moment, he walked on water. So I want you to ask yourself, with deep honesty, looking within your heart, is there a single specific step you've been putting off, a divine prompt you've been ignoring, a quiet nudge from the Spirit that you've intellectualized away or procrastinated on? Maybe it's a difficult conversation you need to have, an act of forgiveness that feels impossible, a leap of faith in your career, starting that small project you feel called to, or even just setting a new boundary in a relationship that has become toxic. Have you been delaying it because it feels too risky, too uncertain, too much like stepping onto waves that threaten to swallow you whole? That, my friend, is your water walking moment. That's the moment where revelation truly becomes tangible reality, where the unseen becomes seen, where the impossible becomes possible. It's about responding to the divine invitation, even when it feels illogical to your human mind, even when your heart pounds with fear, even when every fiber of your being screams to stay safely in the boat. Fifth, let's talk about shedding your comfort cloak. Oh, this one is probably the hardest for most of us, because comfort feels so good, so safe, so familiar, like a warm, thick blanket on a cold night, wrapping us in security. We crave its security, its predictability, its known boundaries. But here's the unshakable truth about real, deep, transformative change. It never, ever takes root in what's familiar, in what's comfortable, in what we already know, in the confines of our existing boundaries and limitations. It simply can't. Growth, by its very nature, demands new ground, new stretching, new territories of the soul. Think about Abram, living a settled, predictable life. He had a comfortable existence, a familiar home in Ur of the Chaldeans, a settled community, a clear identity, a life built on solid, known foundations. But God called him to leave everything he had ever known, to walk away from his family, his land, his rooted identity, and step into the great unknown, into a journey with no map, no destination given, only a promise and a divine command. He had to shed his entire comfort cloak, to strip away the layers of familiarity and security, to become utterly dependent on God, before he could truly become Abraham, the father of nations, the patriarch of a lineage that would shape human history and carry the very promise of the Messiah. That journey was terrifying, I'm sure, filled with uncertainty, with moments of profound loneliness, with doubts and questions, but it was absolutely essential for the magnitude of his destiny to unfold. If we cling to the familiar, to what feels safe and secure, to the well-worn paths and established routines, we effectively block the newness God wants to bring into our lives. We limit his ability to stretch and grow us, to expand our capacity, to mold us into the fullness of who he created us to be, to embody the magnificent purpose he placed within us. Coming up next, as we continue to unpack these profound truths, we're going to dive into what I believe is the most misunderstood move in spiritual maturity. It's the one action that seems utterly counterintuitive, almost nonsensical to our natural instincts, yet it's the very thing that sets everything else in motion, unlocking a flow of grace and power, releasing us into a deeper dimension of spiritual freedom. It's truly a foundational piece to genuine, lasting growth. Sixth, this might feel incredibly challenging, a stretching of your spirit, a movement against the current of your natural inclination, but it's profoundly transformative. Speak blessing over the places, the people, the situations that once wounded you. I know your immediate gut-level reaction might be, but why? They hurt me. They caused me such deep, agonizing pain. They don't deserve my blessing. And that's a valid feeling, a natural human response to suffering and injustice. But forgiveness isn't about dismissing what happened or pretending the pain didn't exist, as if it were a minor inconvenience or a trivial matter. It's not about letting someone off the hook in a way that enables them to continue causing harm or releasing them from accountability. No, biblical forgiveness, true spiritual forgiveness, is a powerful act of divine reclamation. It's you taking back the power that the wound or the person who inflicted it has held over you, consciously choosing to sever its grip. It's you, by an act of your will and grace, empowered by the Spirit, releasing yourself from the suffocating prison of bitterness and resentment that you may not even realize you've been carrying, a hidden weight on your soul. Think about Jesus on the cross, in unimaginable agony, every breath a struggle, every nerve on fire, his body broken, his spirit poured out. He looked at his executioners, the very people who were mocking him, torturing him, nailing him to a tree, killing him, and said with profound, breathtaking grace, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That wasn't weakness. That was supreme power. That was him reclaiming his peace and his mission, even in the midst of his suffering, refusing to be defined or limited by the cruelty of others, choosing love over hate, freedom over bitterness. When you choose to replace bitterness with blessing, when you actively speak words of life and release over those hurts, something fundamentally shifts within your own spirit. The power returns to your hands. You break free from the invisible chains of resentment, the emotional shackles that have held you captive, and suddenly you have the energy, the clarity, and the lightness of spirit to move forward, unburdened by the heavy weight of the past. It's an act of radical self-love and profound spiritual maturity, a declaration that you will not allow their actions to define your future or to poison your present. Seventh, this one is subtle but incredibly potent, a quiet dismantling of ego, a surrender of our most human desires. Let go of any hidden agendas you might have for vindication. We all, deep down, want to be seen as right, to have our side of the story understood, to have justice served, especially when we've been wronged, when our integrity has been questioned, or our pain dismissed and minimized. And there's nothing inherently wrong with desiring justice. It's a righteous cry of the human heart, implanted by God Himself. But sometimes, our personal healing, our breakthroughs, our ability to truly move forward can actually be delayed not by God's absence, not by His unwillingness to heal us, but by our own deep-seated, often unconscious need to be seen as right, to be publicly vindicated, to have our pain acknowledged in a very specific, visible way, perhaps even by the very person who caused it. It's like we hold on to the wound, or the story of the wound, because it serves as proof of our righteousness, proof of what we endured, proof that we were wronged, a badge of suffering. The question here is profound and deeply challenging, one that pierces the heart and requires immense honesty. Do you truly trust God to make all things new, to heal every single fractured piece, to bring ultimate justice, to right every wrong? to restore what was lost, even if your side of the story is never publicly known, never broadcast on a grand stage, never validated by the world's applause or understanding, never acknowledged by the one who hurt you? Can you release that need for public vindication, that burning desire for others to see and acknowledge your truth, and simply trust that God sees, God knows, God understands, God bears witness to every tear, and God will make it right in His own perfect way and time, whether others recognize it or not? Your healing isn't contingent on someone else's apology or the world's acknowledgement of your pain. It's contingent on your surrender to God's process, on your willingness to let Him be your ultimate vindicator, your ultimate restorer, your ultimate reward. Eighth, this is about courageous vulnerability, a beautiful unraveling of pretense. Invite God into those fractured places you've been so carefully hiding. We all have them, don't we? Those secret rooms within our hearts, tucked away behind locked doors, where we stash away the grief we haven't processed. The profound sense of inadequacy we mask with overachievement or a frantic, busy schedule. The crushing disappointments that we cover up with polite smiles and practiced, superficial answers. We think we have to present a perfect, put-together front, especially to God, because surely He only wants to see our best, our most polished, our strongest self. But He already knows. He sees it all, every hidden crack, every unacknowledged wound, every tear you've cried in secret. And He longs with an infinite, tender love that transcends all human understanding to step into those messy, broken, hidden spaces with you, not to judge, not to condemn, but to heal, to restore, to breathe life into what feels dead. Think of King David, the warrior king, the man after God's own heart, a man of immense strength and courage, but also profound brokenness. Many of his most powerful, raw, and enduring psalms, songs of worship and lament echoing through millennia, still speaking to hearts today, were written not from the opulence and security of his throne room, not from moments of triumph, but from the depths of dark, lonely caves where he was hiding from Saul, running for his life, feeling betrayed, heartbroken, and utterly desperate. He didn't deny his fear, his desperation, or his profound human brokenness. He poured it all out to God, uncensored, unedited, raw, holding nothing back. He didn't pretend the darkness wasn't there, but crucially, he refused to let that darkness define him or his relationship with God. He chose transparency, a radical openness before his Creator, trusting that God could handle his mess, his doubts, his pain. When we invite God into those hidden wounds, those secret shames, those unacknowledged sorrows, that's where true healing and true intimacy begin, where the deepest restoration takes place, where the light finally breaks through. He meets us not just in the triumphs and the mountaintop experiences, but gloriously and profoundly in the mess, in the valley of the shadow. Ninth, this is a practical but profoundly powerful spiritual discipline, a mental recalibration of enormous significance. Stop rehearsing old narratives. Our minds have this incredible, sometimes unhelpful, almost addictive ability to replay traumatic events, to reread old letters of rejection, to constantly go over the plot of past pain, analyzing every detail, every slight, every wound. We hold on to these stories, almost as if repeating them will somehow change the ending or prevent us from experiencing something similar again or validate our suffering. It's like a broken record, constantly skipping back to the same painful groove, endlessly replaying the same sorrowful tune. But here's the stark truth, a necessary reality check that can liberate you. You simply cannot heal, you cannot move forward into the newness God has for you, you cannot step into a new future when you keep hitting replay on the plot of past pain. It's like trying to drive forward while constantly looking in the rearview mirror, fixated on what's behind you, unable to see the path ahead. Remember the children of Israel. They were delivered from slavery in Egypt by a mighty, miraculous hand, rescued from generations of bondage. Yet it took them 40 years to reach the promised land. A journey that should have taken days, maybe weeks at most, stretched into decades of wandering in the wilderness. Why? Because they kept circling the same old stories, the same complaints, the same narratives of fear, distrust, and longing for the good old days of slavery, instead of stepping into new faith and new possibilities, new identities. They dwelled on the desert, on their suffering and limitations, not the glorious promise that lay ahead, the land flowing with milk and honey. To truly heal, to truly step into the new thing God has for you, you have to consciously choose to break free from the addiction to those old painful stories. You have to write a new script for your life, with God as the author, allowing Him to fill the pages and then courageously, faithfully live it out, line by line, day by day, moment by moment. 10th, and this is where a truly profound shift breaks open, where the chains fall off and your hands are finally free to receive. Surrender what you thought you deserved. This is a tough one, perhaps the toughest, because our human nature screams for what we believe is fair, what we're owed, what we've worked for, what we were promised, what we feel entitled to. We cling to our expectations, our preconceived notions of how life should unfold. We tie our future happiness, our sense of completion, to specific outcomes or specific people, believing that our destiny is inextricably linked to these precise scenarios. We believe God's best for us is somehow shackled to what we've lost, or to who left us, or to the perfect circumstances we envisioned in our minds, the blueprint we drew for our lives. But sometimes, the final, most deeply embedded idol in our lives isn't an obvious sin or a tangible fear. It's that one precious dream, that specific expectation of how things should turn out, that perfect picture of our future that we simply refuse to place on God's altar, clutching it tightly in our fists, unwilling to release our grip. Remember Abraham? He had received the most incredible promise from God, a son, Isaac, born miraculously in his old age, who would be the heir of nations, the one through whom the great promise would flow, the very lineage of the Messiah. Isaac was the miracle, the promise fulfilled, the dream come true, the very embodiment of God's faithfulness and Abraham's hopes. Yet God asked Abraham to be willing to lay even Isaac, his beloved, long-awaited son, down on the altar as a sacrifice. It was an ultimate test of trust, a willingness to surrender even the most cherished God-given promise back to the giver, to hold nothing back, to trust God's heart even when His command made no sense. And it was only after Abraham demonstrated that complete, radical surrender, that willingness to hold nothing back, to trust God with even the most precious gift, that God confirmed His promise and made him truly the father of nations, the father of faith, a spiritual patriarch for all generations. When you surrender what you thought you deserved, what you clung to as your right, what you believed was essential for your happiness, you open your hands to receive something far greater, something untainted by your past losses or disappointments, something beyond your human capacity to imagine, something perfectly aligned with His divine will. You declare with an act of profound faith that God's plan is better than your own, His wisdom infinitely superior, and His love utterly trustworthy. 11th, closely tied to surrender, is this crucial truth, often hidden in plain sight, obscured by worldly definitions of success. Allow God to redefine what victory truly looks like for you. For so long, we've probably believed, and society certainly teaches us with every advertisement and success story, every movie plot and popular song, that breakthrough and victory mean the pain will magically end, the struggle will cease, and everything will be perfectly comfortable and easy, a life without bumps or challenges, a smooth, unburdened path. We equate victory with the absence of problems, the perfect outcome. But sometimes, real, profound victory isn't the cessation of the storm. It's the unbreakable joy, the unshakable peace, and the deep, hard-earned wisdom that you carry, even if the storm hasn't fully cleared. It's the ability to stand firm and flourish, to bloom where you are planted, to experience deep spiritual growth and profound gratitude in the midst of challenging circumstances, when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Think of Paul in the New Testament. He faced incredible hardship, relentless persecution, imprisonment, multiple shipwrecks, brutal beatings, constant danger, ceaseless toil, betrayal, and deep physical suffering. Yet, he wrote from a cold, damp prison cell, chained to a guard, "I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances." That wasn't resignation, like giving up and just accepting his miserable fate, a weary sigh of defeat. No, that was a declaration of resurrection power, a profound inner freedom, a triumphant spirit living and thriving in his daily life, regardless of what was happening around him, no matter the external pressures. True victory is not just about changing your circumstances. It's about God changing you within the circumstances. It's about cultivating an inner strength, an abiding joy, and an unyielding peace that external situations simply cannot diminish, cannot touch, cannot take away, because they are rooted in Christ alone. It's a spiritual victory that transcends physical reality, a triumph of the soul that radiates outwards, touching everyone you encounter. And 12th, lean in for this final, incredibly powerful insight, for this is where profound clarity meets grace, where understanding truly dawns. That profound contradiction you might be feeling right now, the experience of feeling both incredibly fragile, broken, and vulnerable, like you could shatter at any moment, and deeply favored, cherished, and seen by God at the very same time, is actually the clearest, most undeniable proof that you are exactly where God wants you to be. It's not a sign of confusion, or that something is wrong with you, or that your faith is faltering, or that you're doing something incorrectly. It's a sign that something profoundly right is happening. Something divine is being woven into the fabric of your being. The enemy, the forces of darkness, they hoped your breaking, your moments of weakness, your periods of vulnerability, your seasons of pain would utterly erase your purpose, silence your voice, and dismantle your destiny, leaving you utterly defeated, shipwrecked, and abandoned. They wanted to make you feel worthless, to make you give up, to convince you that your wounds were disqualifications, that your scars marked you as unfit. But they never ever imagined that God, in his infinite wisdom, his boundless power, and his unwavering, relentless love, would take that very breaking and multiply your purpose, amplify your impact, deepen your capacity for empathy, for love, for compassion, for understanding beyond anything you could have achieved otherwise, in your unbroken state. Your wounds, those places where you were pressed and broken, those areas you've tried to hide in shame, to cover up with a brave face, they are no longer liabilities. They are now, by divine design, profound entry points for God's glory to shine through you, like light pouring through cracks in an earthen vessel, illuminating the darkness around you. They are the conduits through which his light pours out, reaching others who are experiencing similar brokenness, offering them hope and healing, a beacon in their storm. They are the testimony that transforms not only your life, but the lives of countless others, drawing them closer to the heart of God. Friend, I really encourage you to stay with this word in your spirit. Don't just let it wash over you and then forget it, allowing the current of daily life to sweep it away, allowing the noise of the world to drown out its gentle whisper. Allow it to sink deep into the fertile soil of your heart, to take root, to transform your perspective, to recalibrate your internal compass. Before you close your eyes tonight, just whisper this simple yet incredibly powerful prayer, a declaration of release and trust, a sacred agreement between your soul and your Creator, a moment of profound surrender and open-handed receiving. God, I let go of every single weight, every fear, every negative label I've carried, every limiting belief that isn't from you, every lie I've believed about myself or my circumstances. Show me the incredible beauty, the profound strength, the deep wisdom, the undeniable purpose in what I've survived. I trust, with everything in me, with the deepest yearning of my spirit, that my miracle has already begun, that you are already at work, weaving good out of every broken thread, every shattered piece, every tear I've cried. And if you believe, truly believe in the deepest parts of your being, that your story isn't over, that God is still writing a magnificent new chapter for you, a chapter filled with redemption and purpose, joy and undeniable impact, then please, share this message with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is hurting, someone who is stuck in their own season of famine, longing for a way out. Drop an amen in the comments below. Let me know this resonated with you. Let me know that the Spirit spoke to your heart, that this truth found a home within you. And as you do that, as you step into that sacred space of sharing and declaration, you'll become a powerful catalyst for someone else's breakthrough, a vessel of God's love in their lives, a living testament to His faithfulness. Remember this profound truth. Heaven moves. God's power is unleashed on the prayers and the actions we take, especially the ones we initiate out of pure, selfless love for others. Your breakthrough is often tied to someone else's, a beautiful tapestry of interconnected grace, a divine dance of giving and receiving.